everybody, so today I'm here to give you guys a breastfeeding update. It has been 5 months since I've given one. I'm rounding to about a year and 9 months of exclusively pumping, so I thought I would just give you guys an update as to what's been going on in case you don't follow like my chit chat videos or day in the lives or anything like that, which I know those aren't like super updatey, that's even a word, but you know, like I feel like you could generally kind of get the idea of what's going on with me. I also provide some like updates of what's going on Instagram too, but these I feel like I probably should have done more frequently for you guys. Mark and I are planning to try and conceive in January, so if you guys would like frequent or more regular breastfeeding updates with our next baby whenever that may happen, let me know in the comments below, because I think that's something I might even want to do just even for myself, but I'd like to have your guys' feedback as well. I thought I would refresh us to where I had left off and then kind of pick up from there, because I had to watch my last breastfeeding update because it's been so long and I feel like so much has happened, but I guess looking back there's not a lot. I think it's just a lot more of emotions this time, and I'll get into that obviously. So it was a year and 3 months postpartum when I last updated you guys, and I was at 3 pumps per day, and I had just recovered from mastitis, and I could definitely tell that I had just recovered because of my attitude in the whole thing. I just seemed exhausted, I seemed really tired, and I felt like I could definitely just see how pumping was starting to take a toll on me even back then. And not in a bad way necessarily, I just seemed like I was probably getting a little burnt out, and I could definitely see that watching it back. So I did keep that routine for a while, the 3 pumps per day, because like I said in that update, it was just working really well for me. I was able to get a lot more done. I felt like I didn't have to pump constantly. It was just really amazing. It kind of opened my eyes to like what a regular day could be like without pumping, and it was just kind of crazy because I would find myself in the middle of the day being like, oh, I forgot to pump, and I was like, no, I don't have to pump, it's not time yet. And it's just, it's a really almost like liberating feeling. That's probably extreme, but that's what it does feel like, especially when, you know, your main focus for however long has been to nourish this child on such a consistent and regular and tedious basis. To get some of that time back is like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So I kept that up for a little while, and then just somewhere in the weeks that followed, I started to get this inkling of an idea that I might want to wean. And it just kind of crept up out of nowhere, and it wasn't like a strong urge. It was just something I kept thinking about, and it was just kind of always in the back of my mind. And then at a year and a half, I got Thrush. And let me tell you guys, Thrush freaking sucks. I was in so much pain. I honestly think looking back, I was in denial. Okay, so let me break down what happened for you. I started getting these pains, and some of you might know that I was no stranger to vasospasms, especially in my early days of pumping. Vasospasms are just horrendous. They would put me in such excruciating pain. I just like, it was so intense all the time when I had vasospasms. But eventually those subsided, and like I haven't really had to deal with those since, but I started getting these pains, and they kind of felt like vasospasms, but not exactly the same. Vasospasms are like a sharp pain, like a searing pain almost for me. Like it feels like something's gripping the inside of me almost. Whereas the pain I was feeling was more of like, it was intense, but it was like a throb almost. And I was like, oh man, like I guess my vasospasms have come back. All that sucks. And I kind of knew in the back of my mind, this is not exactly what vasospasms feel like, but I think, like I said, I just wanted to be in denial. I was like, no, nothing's wrong here. Nothing could possibly be wrong at a year and a half postpartum. And then I just couldn't get them to go away. I tried all my regular tricks of trying to get my vasospasms to go away. Nothing happened. And I was like, well, you know, maybe my body's just like achy. It might be ovulating, or my period, and like just all this crazy stuff. Just nonsense. I was just like really grasping at straws. And that's when I finally broke down, and I talked to my friend Josie, and she's like, looks and sounds like you got Thrush, girl. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I promptly made an appointment with my OB, who took one look at my boobs and said, "Yup, you have thrush." So that was amazing. Not. Thrush was so painful. I literally went to my OB because the night that I had talked to Josie, I woke up 3 times in pain. Like, just woke me up out of my sleep. I was in so much pain. I was wearing like these super oversized t-shirts that would like barely touch my skin, so I didn't have to deal with it, because anything that would touch me just hurt. Not in the sense of like engorgement or anything. It was just like, I don't know how to put it. It was just pain all the time. I think it's just because I let the thrush get out of control, because I didn't want it to be thrush. And sure enough, I got on antibiotics and I started to feel a world better, like so much better. So for those of you who have suffered through thrush, or even several cases of thrush, because I know there's women who have it and it's a reoccurring issue, just, you have so much props from me, because that was seriously so painful. I'm not going to sit here and try to compare mastitis to thrush, because I do think that they were two entirely different experiences and two different pains, but they are definitely both up there, and if I ever had thrush again, I would have weaned. So that was my take on mastitis, that if I had had that again, I would have weaned, and the same goes for thrush, because it was no joke. It was so painful. And all I can say is that if you have any kind of pain in breastfeeding, just go talk to somebody. Go figure out what it is. For myself, I just didn't want there to be anything wrong, so that's why I didn't go talk to somebody. And I was really just annoyed with myself whenever I did find out it was thrush, because obviously I knew that was a possibility, but I just didn't want it to be, because I was like, how annoying would it be if I had thrush at a year and a half postpartum? Well, guess what? Sometimes life gives you the annoying thing opposed to what you want. So yeah, that is just my biggest tip. If something doesn't feel right, just go talk to somebody and go get it figured out. Don't make yourself suffer. So I'm laughing at it now because I just, it's because I can. In that moment, if someone would have laughed at me, I probably would have punched them, but looking back at it, I can just see how desperate I was for there to not be anything wrong, because I had been considering weaning and all that stuff. So like I said, I got that all figured out, and while I was dealing with the thrush, I was in so much pain that I was like, I want to wean. But again, just like with the mastitis, I told myself, you can make that decision when you feel better. Like, I'm not going to make a decision right now when I don't feel good, and I just kind of already have a reason to wean. So let's wait until I'm not in excruciating pain and don't hate pumping so much, and then I can do it. Which thrush is just annoying to deal with on a different level too, because you have to do so much sanitizing and taking care of stuff to make sure that it's just not going to come straight back. And that was something that I was worried about for a while. Thankfully it did not, which is amazing, but that was something that I was also having to concern myself with, which is why I think I was just so over it, because there was so much sanitizing and washing and more sterilizing. There was just so much sterilizing going on in this house, and I was just over it. When you're that far postpartum, you don't want to put that much work into it. You've already done that hard work. And I think that's why I was so just over it. So like I said, I still had those ideas, and I did finally start to feel better. I got off the antibiotics because, finished them out and stuff. And I just felt so much better. And when I was confident that it wasn't going to return or anything, that's when I started to seriously consider weaning. I just wanted to be done. I didn't really have any other explanation than that. I know my goal was to go to 2 years, but I just didn't want to. I have been through a lot of stuff in my pumping journey, and I just felt like at peace with my decision. It really, after the thrush, it wasn't me going back and forth anymore. It was more of like a, when am I gonna wean? Like, I know it's gonna be soon, but how soon do I want it to be? And that's mainly what I had to decide on. And I decided to start weaning pretty like soon after I recovered from thrush, because I did get summoned for jury duty. So I was like, I really don't want to deal with that on top of, pumping and stuff. So I really wanted to be weaned by the time that I was gonna have to serve jury duty. I'm not sure if that's something that other countries have, but in the United States, you can be summoned for jury duty, which means I would serve as a juror in a court case, and that means being away from home all day. And you can get exemptions for breastfeeding, but I have already been exempted 2 different times, and I just want to serve it out because they just keep postponing me to serve a different time. And it's just like, I'm not done having babies, I'm not going to be done breastfeeding for years, so I just wanted to get it out of the way if I could. So I had started weaning like mid-October. I'm still in the process of weaning mid-December. So as you can see, it's taken a long time. I do plan on doing a thorough video of my weaning process because it's been an entirely different experience than it was with Sophie and weaning from pumping then. I think I just really underestimated how much my pregnancy with Remy dried me up, because I think it really was like the catalyst for weaning in that equation, because this has been such a long and drawn out kind of complicated process. Sorry, we had a baby wake up from a nap, so I had to take a break. The process was pretty fast in the beginning. I was able to drop that pump that was in the middle of the day pretty quickly. It just took me about, I think, like 3 or 4 days, and it was gone, and I was down to 2 pumps per day. Going down to 1 pump per day took a little bit longer, and then figuring out what worked best from there is what has taken the longest. So like I said, I will go into an in-depth video on like my weaning process because it's not done yet. I'm still hand expressing at night. I'm not pumping anymore, but I am still hand expressing. I'm still getting milk, so it's a little bit, it's just a tiny bit, but it's still there, and I'm still, you know, having to go through some stuff. So I'm not completely done yet. It's just been an entire learning experience, and I feel like I've almost had to put just as much work in at the end now as I had to in the beginning. The middle was the easiest part. Just kind of like maintaining everything was really fine, but getting things started and getting the end going was all just very hard. As far as what Remy was taking as far as breast milk goes, I'm not really sure what she was doing at 1 year and 3 months postpartum. I'm not even sure if I mentioned that in that video or not. But Remy has had feeding issues ever since she was a very, very small infant, basically a newborn, honestly. But that has totally subsided, and she drinks and eats like a normal little girl now, which has been amazing. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, so sorry if this is repeating it or not, but Remy was on night feeds for the longest time. It was just like the only way we could get her to ever eat. So around after turning 1 year, that's what we were really focusing on, was getting her off those night feeds, because we wanted her to start eating during the day more, and that worked pretty well. It did take a little bit, but she eventually got on all during the day feeds. And again, I get a lot of questions as to like how often I feed the girls and how much and whatever when it came to breast milk. My children have always been abnormal when it comes to that. I cannot tell you what the standard is. I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do, because my kids have just been so different in what they medically need, that we do what works for us and what it means to get our girls to gain weight. So it's probably going to look a lot different than what most people do. So with Remy, it's always been just offer as much as you can when you can, and it's not a bad thing when it comes to Remy. So like I said, our main concern was just getting her off those night feeds. Before cutting out the night feeds, we had gotten rid of the bottle, I know that, but after that I just would offer her breast milk as often as she would take it. And just slowly but surely in this weaning process, I've had less to give her. So obviously she started taking more almond milk, which is what her sister drinks. It's just what we drink in this house. And she's slowly adapted to that. I will say that she's been sick recently, and I had, you know, breast milk to give her. She's taken it. Sophie still drinks it. You know, they'll take it if I have it, but I honestly don't have that much to give her. So I just give whatever I might hand express that day. It all depends, and really anymore all I get is drops. But still, that was pretty helpful because she had a gunked up eye from her strep that she had recently, and it worked amazingly in her eye to help clear up that gunk. So you can still find a use for it even if you're making drops. But yeah, that's just about everything for the update for the past 5 months. Like I said, I feel like looking back, it hasn't been a ton of like experience wise, but it's been a lot emotionally. You know, coming to terms with the fact that I had thrush at 1.5 years postpartum was hard for me. I didn't want to deal with that. I was just super over it. And then dealing with all of the thought processes around weaning. And then to go about the process of actually weaning, that's just like an entirely different step. And then I always feel guilty when I wean. I said always, like I've done it 700 times. Both times I've weaned, I felt guilty. And I've talked about this here and there. I think there's always weaning guilt, whether you're 2 days postpartum or 2 years postpartum. You always wonder if this is the right time, if you should be going longer, if you should have done this different or whatever. I think no matter the length of breastfeeding, you always feel that guilt, and I had to deal with that. And, you know, at the end of the day, my girls need a healthy and happy mama. I said anything after a year was completely gravy to me. So, you know, we're well past a year now. So I've done what I could. I wish I could have gone longer, but, you know, this is what I want. You know, if I had it in me to go to 2 years, I would do it. But I don't want to anymore, and I think that's okay to say. I think a lot of people are afraid to come out and say, I'm weaning because I want to. Whether that's at 2 weeks or 6 months or 6 years, you know, whatever it is, who cares? If it's your decision to wean, it's your decision to wean, and it's nobody else's. So feel confident in your decision, because what you've done, no matter the length of time, is amazing. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I know I struggle with that, and I just kind of wanted to give some encouraging words in case you're thinking about weaning and feeling that guilt too, because it'll get you. It'll get you every time. But yeah, so far it's been really good. I mean, reflecting back now that I feel like I really am in the final days of me breastfeeding, it's been quite like a long marathon. That's what I told Mark. It feels like a marathon, and I've had to overcome some stuff, but I'm really proud of the work that I've done and what I was able to accomplish. And, you know, just I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud that I did what I sought out to do. Being proud of your accomplishments is just key when it comes to breastfeeding. Your accomplishments might not be what your goals had been, but that doesn't matter. Accomplishments are still accomplishments, whether you sought out to achieve them or not. But I'm also ready to move on. I'm ready to be in a space of not pregnant and not breastfeeding, even if that is just for a short, like, few weeks or whatever, hopefully, if I'm that lucky. But yeah, that is everything that I have for this breastfeeding update. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.